Pop quiz. Which European military power has everyone convinced is washed up, past its prime, basically the military equivalent of a retired rock star doing county fair gigs? If you said Britain, congratulations, you fell for the greatest misdirection in modern warfare. Here's the twist nobody saw coming. While the world was busy writing obituaries for the British military, London was quietly building something that would make every defense minister in Europe spit out their morning coffee. Sixth-generation fighters, laser weapons that sound like sci-fi, nuclear submarines that make Russia's admirals genuinely nervous, and a military budget that just got slashed. Wait, what? Yeah, we need to talk about that part too, because Britain's comeback story has a plot twist even Hollywood wouldn't believe. Buckle up. Let's rewind to the 1990s. The Berlin Wall just fell, the Soviet Union imploded, and Britain looked around and said, you know what? We don't need all these expensive toys anymore. Let's sell everything. And I mean everything. Between 1992 and 1997, Britain's defense budget got absolutely demolished. We're talking 6% cut in 1992, 4% in 93, 5% in 94, 7% in 95, another 7% in 97. By the end of the decade, defense spending collapsed from 4.1% of GDP to 2.4%. That's not budget trimming, that's setting your military on fire and roasting marshmallows over it. The numbers get even better. 33 brand new Tornado jets, scrapped before they even flew. The army shrank to 116,000 troops, its smallest size since Napoleon was terrorizing Europe. The Royal Navy started decommissioning ships faster than it could build them. And the crown jewel of British embarrassment? In 2010, they retired the carrier HMS Ark Royal and sold its Harrier jets to America. For spare parts, Britain literally sold its aircraft carriers' planes to the United States for scrap metal. Even America was like, Britain, are you good? By 2017, Britain's military looked like a corporate liquidation sale. Token deployments here, training missions there. While China built hypersonic missiles and Russia rebuilt its army, Britain was arguing in Parliament about whether it could still afford tanks. The tabloids called it the Great Unarming. Russia barely noticed. For the first time in centuries, Britain looked like a spectator in the power game it literally invented. But here's where the story gets interesting. Because somewhere in the wreckage of defense cuts and political indifference, a few stubborn voices refused to surrender. They had a radical idea. What if Britain didn't need to rebuild the empire to reclaim power? What if technology could do what tradition couldn't? And quietly, very quietly, that revolution began. While the world watched Britain's decline, nobody noticed the blueprints being drawn in secret hangars and underwater test sites. The comeback was coming. They just didn't know it yet. France is like, but we're Europe's military leader. And Britain's over here like, cool story. Our jet thinks faster than your pilots. And then there's the Royal Navy. You know, the one everyone said was dead. Plot twist. It's building 2 new frigate classes that are basically submarine hunting ninjas. The Type 26, silent, deadly, can hunt subs across entire oceans undetected. Modular weapon bays, advanced sonar, vertical missile launchers. Australia and Canada saw these specs and immediately ordered their own. The Type 31, faster, cheaper, exportable. Britain's answer to, how do we show up everywhere without going broke? Together, these ships represent a complete philosophical shift. Britain isn't trying to outspend rivals, it's trying to outsmart them. But wait, there's more. And this one sounds fake until you realize it's real. Dragonfire, a laser weapon system that shoots down drones and missiles at the speed of light for the cost of a few pounds per shot. Everyone dismissed it as science fiction. Then in 2024, Britain's Ministry of Defense casually announced successful tests. Dragonfire hit moving aerial targets with surgical precision. While other countries are spending billions on traditional missiles, Britain just said, what if we used photons instead? The empire that once ruled through gunpowder is now perfecting warfare through physics. And beneath the waves? Oh, Britain joined the AUKUS pact with the US and Australia. Translation: Britain gets access to American nuclear submarine technology and gets to project power across the Indo-Pacific for decades. The Royal Navy's new generation of subs will make Britain a silent global hunter, unseen, unpredictable, untouchable. Here's what makes this revolutionary. Britain isn't trying to rebuild what it lost. It's building something entirely new: precision over power, technology over tradition, innovation over nostalgia. And when the world finally looked up from dismissing Britain's military, they didn't see a relic, they saw something reborn. So Britain built all these incredible weapons. Now the question becomes, where are they actually using them? Because what good is a comeback if nobody sees it? Spoiler, they're everywhere. In 2020, Britain created the National Cyber Force. Most people heard the announcement and thought, cool, IT security stuff. Wrong. This is GCHQ plus Ministry of Defense, hackers plus soldiers, offensive cyber operations plus digital espionage plus real-time battlefield manipulation. The NCF's mission isn't defense, it's offense. They go after enemy power plants, missile silos, satellites. In an age where one keystroke can cripple a nation, Britain built a weapon more potent than any bomb: access. Then came cyber and electromagnetic command. This unit integrates electronic warfare, radar deception, and AI-driven jamming. In war games, these invisible strikes were devastating. Entire mock fleets disappeared from radar before a single missile launched. The message to Moscow and Beijing? Britain doesn't need to match your divisions. It can disable them. But Britain's real secret weapon? The units nobody talks about: SAS and SBS. Officially, they're ghosts. Missions never acknowledged. Unofficially, they're everywhere. Syria's deserts, Africa's jungles, anti-ISIS operations, hostage rescues in Yemen. But here's what makes them truly terrifying now. They operate alongside drones and satellite feeds, coordinating in real time with US Delta Force and Australian Special Ops. AI targeting, cyber infiltration, live reconnaissance from space. The Special Boat Service has turned into a maritime ghost fleet, conducting surveillance, sabotage, and underwater infiltration in the Black Sea and Persian Gulf. These aren't remnants of the empire, they're proof that Britain, though smaller, still fights smarter and deadlier than most nations on Earth. Yet beneath all the new technology, one truth remains: deterrent still begins with the nuclear shadow. Britain's Dreadnought-class submarines, the next generation of its nuclear deterrent, represent the pinnacle of stealth and survivability. Each vessel, under construction in Barrow-in-Furness, will replace the aging Vanguard class by the 2030s, carrying Trident 2D5 missiles, ensuring Britain's continuous at-sea deterrent. But this time, they're integrated with quantum navigation, AI decision systems, and electronic camouflage. Nearly untouchable. Here's the kicker: Britain's military renaissance isn't about returning to empire muscle. It's about mastering the modern battlefield's mind. Every domain, sea, air, land, space, cyber, woven into one network. Every decision happens within seconds. This isn't the Britain of the past. This is a hyper-connected force built for tomorrow's chaos. So Britain built this incredible 21st century military, spent years perfecting it. And just when you think the story ends with triumph, the government announces massive budget cuts in 2025. Yeah, we need to talk about that. Let's get real for a second. Is Britain a superpower? The honest answer, not yet, maybe not ever. Britain can't outspend America, can't outbuild China, can't outman Germany in manufacturing. Its armed forces are elite but stretched thin across too many commitments. And domestic politics swing between ambition and austerity so wildly that long-term consistency, the thing great powers actually need, is nearly impossible. But here's what Britain has achieved: force multiplication. When Washington turns toward the Pacific, London fills the Atlantic gap. When Europe hesitates, Britain deploys. When NATO needs a bridge between intelligence, cyber, and field operations, Britain becomes that bridge. This agility gives Britain an outsized voice in global strategy. It's not about raw power, it's about strategic tempo, the speed at which you sense, decide, and act. By that measure, Britain operates at superpower speed. When crises erupt, whether in Europe's east or Asia's seas, Britain's ships, spies, and special forces are among the first to move, and when they move, others follow. But let's not kid ourselves. Britain is punching above its weight, which means it's also one budget crisis away from dropping the gloves entirely. Defense Secretary John Healey laid out plans to rebuild arms stockpiles and expand Britain's nuclear deterrent, but doubts over funding and Britain's ability to move fast enough are unsettling the industry and armed forces. So is Britain a superpower? No. But the empire's descendants are acting like one. And in geopolitics, perception often becomes reality. What's most striking isn't the technology, it's philosophy. Britain isn't trying to return to the empire. It's building something that works for the 21st century. Precision over nostalgia, innovation over tradition, reach over size. The empire may be gone, but Britain's power? It was just waiting for the world to forget before reminding everyone who taught them what power truly means. So here's what we learned today. Britain went from laughingstock to legitimate threat in less than a decade. They built 6th-gen fighters while everyone laughed. They deployed carriers to the Pacific while everyone said they couldn't. They created cyber weapons that can disable enemies before firing a shot. But they also have massive budget problems, personnel crises, and scandals that would sink lesser militaries. The comeback is real, but it's also fragile. And here's the kicker nobody talks about. Maybe that fragility is what makes Britain dangerous, because when you can't afford to lose, you fight smarter. When you can't outspend rivals, you out-innovate them. Britain's military renaissance wasn't built on endless resources. It was built on necessity, on engineers who refused to surrender, on officers who knew survival meant adaptation. The world spent decades writing Britain's obituary. Turns out, they were just writing the prologue. If you made it this far, you're clearly into deep geopolitical analysis that doesn't sugarcoat reality. Hit that subscribe button, because we're breaking down the military power plays mainstream media either misses or oversimplifies. And drop a comment. Do you think Britain's military comeback is sustainable, or is this just a temporary flex before the budget reality hits? Also, since we went deep on Britain today, what military should we analyze next? France? Germany? Let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one where we break down more defense secrets nobody else is talking about.